This survey, it's really a good one. There's two surveys that I feel really do a good job of keeping they have their thumb on the pulse of the community. And I would say one is the PSF JetBrains combination. That one's really good for Python in particular. And the other is the Stack Overflow survey. Well, the Stack Overflow survey recently came out, a couple months ago or something like that. So now it's the PSF JetBrains survey. And when I first saw this, I thought, oh, this is last year's because it was 2019, but they do a ton of analysis on it. And the survey was done in 2019, but it's released now. So anyway, I want to talk about some of the results in there because there's some interesting takes. And also I want to say thank you to Jose Nario who sent this in because, like I said, I thought it was last year's and I'm still waiting for the 2020 edition. All right, so let's talk about some of the results. First of all, one of the first questions asked was, do you primarily use Python as your main language, or are you interested in Python because it's some other, like I also happen to use it in addition to JavaScript or something? 84% of the people who took the survey, and that was mostly folks who visited python.org. So 84% said it's my primary language, and that's unchanged from last year. Okay. They have a lot of the analysis here was how has this changed over the last year or so, right? So there's a lot of interesting trends to be pulled out from here. They said, what other languages do you use? Well, there was JavaScript, which has gone down in usage. There's Bash, which has gone down in usage. There's HTML, which has gone down in usage relative to last year, and C++, which has gone down relative to last year. So the people who took the survey, the same number of people said they're primarily using Python, but the other languages they're employing, all the ones which were popular seem to be going down. And I would say this means maybe people are starting to lean more on Python, those who use it. I don't know what the conclusions we should draw there.
I think there's also some growth in some other languages as well. I'm guessing like interesting to see all the other ones down.
Yeah. Well, this is down within the Python community, right? This is not necessarily down overall, right? So I would say we should look at the Stack Overflow survey to like really more like even Stack Overflow trends. But if you look at that one, it's all the other languages are relatively down as well. So interesting. Now, a lot of the divide happens around web versus data science here. And so a lot of the questions said, are you a web developer primarily or a data scientist primarily? And then if you are, what type of tools do you use? So for example, if you're a data scientist, you use Python, of course, but you also make larger use of C++, Java, R, and C# as a data scientist. But if you are a web developer, you make more use of SQL, JavaScript, and HTML, which is, no surprise because it's hard to write the web without HTML and JavaScript.
Yeah.
So those are pretty interesting. And they said 58% of the people use Python for both work and personal projects. And they said, all right, well, what do you use it for, right? So there was a bunch of answers. I'm going to give you the top 4 because the average person who filled this out chose 4 things that they primarily use Python for, right? It's like I could use it for web and DevOps or something like that, right? It's not exclusive. So the top 4 were data analysis, which is exactly the same as last year. 59% of the respondents said that. Web development, this is pretty interesting. 51% of the people said they do web development, but this is down 4% year over year.
Interesting.
That's a big drop, and I feel like web is a big component of what the Python space is.
Yeah.
So I don't really know what to draw from that. Like maybe just more people are sort of backfilling in the data science side, maybe. Maybe the tools that they use are better. So things like Streamlit and stuff, they're like, well, I don't have to do web now. I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
Machine learning, 40%, that's up 1%. DevOps, 39%, that's down 4% as well, which is the same number as web development. And these are kind of similar things. So what you use Python for is pretty interesting. And then more broadly, it says, what do you use it the most for? Web, data analysis, and machine learning. Web was down 1% as the primary thing you use it for. Data analysis is up 1%. Machine learning is up 2%. Also, not surprising, I guess, but good news on the Python versus legacy Python story. 90% of people are using Python 3.
That's good.
That's a huge change from 5 years ago when it was like, oh yeah, there's that one weird guy that uses Python 3, but everyone else now. More of the data scientists are using Python 3 as a percentage over the web developers. And I think that's because data science, the libraries and the tools are changing a lot. It's not like you have legacy data science, like, oh yeah, we're using that machine learning library from like 10 years ago because we just don't want to change it. It's like those are fundamentally changed and you just have new tools. Whereas web development, I think there's a lot of folks that are like, yeah, we're still got that, Django 1 app going on Python 2 or something.
Well, I'm not surprised there's still some Python 2, but 10% still seems a little high.
Yeah. I think it's mostly legacy code. I'm not entirely sure, but you can use your legacy Python for your legacy code. All right. And then web frameworks. Flask was kind of neck and neck with Django last year. Now it's like totally ahead. So 48% Flask developers and 44% Django developers, and everything else is pretty small. Data science, 63% of the people are using NumPy, 55% Pandas, 46% Matplotlib. Here's one I threw in for you, Brian. Testing, 49% of the people are using PyTest.
Yes.
30% of the people are using the built-in unit test. And 34% are using this other framework I hadn't heard of before. It's called the None framework.
Yeah, it's that's unfortunately high, but it's funny that it's higher than unit test.
Yeah, I know. That's what I thought as well. Pretty funny. All right, a couple more and we'll be done with this one. So the cloud platforms people are using, AWS is in the lead. No surprise there with 55%. What did surprise me is Google Cloud, GCP and whatnot, is actually number 2 at 33%. DigitalOcean, shout out to them, is at 22%, and then Heroku is 20%, and Azure is 19%. So pretty interesting. And then how do you run your code in the cloud? In a production environment, do you run it in containers, VMs, platform as a service like Heroku or something? So containers, 47%. That's pretty high. VMs, 46%. And then platform as a service is 25%. What editor do you use? PyCharm, 33%. VS Code, 24%. Vim, 9%. Everything else is like a super small margin after that. Yeah. And that's pretty much it.
Yeah, so I threw in an extra one on there at the end. The containers. I thought containers was number 2 below VMs last year, and now it's jumped to number 1.
Oh yeah, like that's probably Kubernetes, like hosted Kubernetes clusters, right? That people are throwing their Docker images into. Oh yeah, what's the last one? Take us through this one.
And then the tool use. They also listed a handful of things of people using. 90% people using version control, that's good. 80% write their tests, that's good. And 80% code linting. And 65% people use type hinting, which actually is a little higher than I.
Way to go.
That's nice. And about half the people using code coverage tools, 52%. So
yeah, cool. Thank you for watching this segment of the Python Bytes podcast. This video was made during the recording of the full episode. Visit pythonbytes.fm and get the whole story. Subscribe to the podcast and get the entire episode delivered to your phone. Please support our work by taking one of the courses at pythonbytes.fm/courses or learning PyTest with Brian's book at pythonbytes.fm/PyTest. Finally, visit our sponsor shown on the screen here. Visit the link on the screen and get the special offer for Python Bytes and YouTube listeners. Thanks, and have a great rest of your day.